What's up, guys? Welcome back to another one. With the conclusion of duck season now, with the freezer full of ducks, means it's time to kind of buckle down and start getting them mounted. Kind of like that one, get ready for the wall. Today we are starting off with a Bufflehead. It's going to be the first of quite a few that I have, so I don't know if I'm going to end up making kind of like a series or break it down. Don't really know how much storage I have, so kind of be curious to see if I'll be able to make it through one long video, if I'm gonna have to break it up into kind of like a skinning, a cleaning, a fleshing section. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and let's get this little Bufflehead mounted. Alright, so got the Bufflehead here, threw it in a gallon bag, had it in the freezer. Just gonna take it out real quick. A lot of people try to like wrap the head like a paper towel. I chose not to just because I'd only had it in the freezer for about a month or so. I did decide to wrap the legs with some paper towels, just kind of stop any kind of like freezer burnt or anything like that. So you can see pretty good Drake Bufflehead. Hopefully the reflection, or not the reflection, but the kind of iridescence is picked up in the camera. So hopefully that'll kind of like stick through the whole mounting process today. I'm sorry if there is any kind of reflection. I do it on a very large cooking sheet, the biggest one I could find on Amazon, just so it makes cleanup super easy. I don't have to worry about getting borax or anything else on my table. I always wear gloves because sometimes they'll have like some weird mites that they've never bit me, but sometimes it still kind of creeps me out when they crawl on me. Anyways, you just want a clean bird. So some tools, I always just use this little cheapo, forgot what brand it is. You can get them at Walmart. I think they're Danco pliers, they're like $2-3. I just use these to clip through any bones that I need to. And then a scalpel with a number 11 blade. Sometimes I'll get away with I want to say it's a number 10, whatever bigger curved blade is for the bigger ducks. The 11 blade I like for the smaller ducks and to get it like around their bill a little bit better. And I'll also use a spray bottle, a little bit of Dawn, and I will just kind of get in here and separate the feathers. I just use one big cut down its stomach. I know a lot of people go foot to foot or even along the back now. Still only working on, I don't know, I guess this is maybe like my 20th bird or so. We have a relatively new kitten. This is the first time that I've mounted a duck around, so I'm sure he's going to be very curious today. Try to get into... Just try to separate the feathers as best as I can. That way I have a clean inseam to sew up later on. And it makes a huge difference having one nice clean cut rather than a very big jagged cut as well. I still do a fairly large cut from almost like the top of the breast all the way down to the vent. And that's just because I've tried going smaller, but I end up ripping on the way out, and that's a real pain to try to sew back up later and trying to match it up later on and everything else. So I think that's looking about good. Try to move these over. Still a little uneven at the top. No. Just want to just make sure. I pulled this bird out of the freezer yesterday afternoon, kind of left on the counter all day, so you can see it's still kind of like cool to the touch. It's definitely not frozen, so that's kind of like where I like it to be. All right, I'm gonna start at the top of this breastbone right here and just work my way down. You're still gonna pull and cut through some feathers. I'm not too worried about it. Once you get there, you can kind of pull the skin back a little bit, and then you just kind of start skinning away. A lot of people like to throw borax on it right here for a grip. I've tried that a couple times, but I ended up just kind of, what would you call it? Like, I guess like clouding my vision a little bit, and I'm not really too sure what I'm cutting. And I've cut through or cut extra holes in the skin. So I like to just double check, make sure what I'm cutting, take my time a little bit longer. Just for like a quick time check, it is going on 9:45 right now. So usually it takes me roughly maybe about an hour to get through a bird, or to get through just skinning. I get all my materials from Rocky Mountain Materials. It's a company out of Idaho. They've got free shipping if you order. It used to be like 40 bucks, 50 bucks worth of shipping. So usually it comes out to about 35, 40, sometimes 50 bucks a bird, depending on how many extra materials that you want to get. A lot of times when they're thawed out like this, you can just try to get your finger in, just pull the meat from the skin. This is the first bufflehead that I'm attempting, so I don't really know what the skin, the fat, or anything is going to look like. I usually have done a bunch of redheads, pintails in the past. Let me double check and make sure y'all can see. Took me forever to try to set up some kind of lighting, because I know any light on this reflective pan definitely isn't the best. I'll probably just end up fast forwarding through all this later on. I know sometimes starting off you get impatient, you just want to start going faster and faster, and that's when all your mistakes start. So I learned if you start getting impatient, you're tired with it, take a break. It'll be a lot less frustrating later on taking a break than having to sew up a lot of holes in your skin. I think with how this one is, I'm probably going to need to go up a little bit higher on the breast, just so I can get up in there a little bit easier. See, I already just popped a hole in the breast right there. So I'm going to come down a little bit more what I initially did, so I can open this up a little bit more. Down to the legs now on the side. Come over here and go to the other side. We are going to do a standing mount with this one. This one does have a busted wing, or else I would have probably done or practiced a flying mount. With this bird, I also got some new Master's Blend foot injection fluid. Like I said, I'm just starting out. In the past, I would just kind of pin the legs where I wanted to. They would dry. They would keep, majority of the time they would either keep their color or they would darken. A lot of the redheads, pintails, and stuff like that, they kind of have darker, kind of grayish, blackish legs anyway. So as they darkened, they basically just get black. And a lot of the poses, they'd be like flying, so all their legs and everything would be kind of tucked in anyways. So I wasn't really worried about it too much. But I figured as I learn, get things looking a little bit more natural, I'll try this whole feet injection stuff. So we're gonna try it out. Down here, around the vent. Let's be real careful because you got some real thin skin down here. Try my best just to pull it back a little bit. I cut off more around the vent than what's needed, just because you can hold all the tail feathers and the ends back in here a little bit more. You always want to be super careful towards the back because that's where the skin is super thin, and that's where I've always had majority of my holes and tears and everything else. A lot of times you can take it and just kind of break it, as long as you can find where the cartilage is, that little seam. It's gonna be right in here. There's also those little oil glands back in here. So there you go, it just popped. I don't know if you can see that. These are little oil glands. So now the spine is separated from its very like end tailbone section. You got these two little oil glands that you want to definitely make sure you get out, or else the mount will always have an oily look to it. From here, and you start working your way down. A lot of times on the bigger ducks, you can just take it and actually peel it off the back. Sometimes I prefer that just because it's a little bit faster. And you don't have to worry about nicking the skin because it's super thin back here. But you have to watch out too, because if you have any kind of BB or pellet holes and it wants to hold onto the skin, you can tear those holes very easily, and it's a pain in the butt trying to sew back holes in the back, because the feathers lay a little bit different than what they do on the stomach. And at least in my experience, it is a pain in the butt to try to sew back and have it still look right without it being like all ruffled or curled or anything else. So I'm just gonna try to pull this back out, push it down. I'm still just kind of going little by little, starting to pick up some of that like back of the leg, I guess like thigh skin. A lot of people try to keep the skin as meat free as possible. I kind of still play it safe, and so I'll just leave the meat on the skin as long as I'm separating it from the carcass. And then that way it gives me something a little bit easier to hold on to later on when I'm fleshing. I don't have a fleshing wheel or anything like that. I just do it all by hand. It's another thing I've been learning. Everyone stresses to get as much fat and no off, or else it'll stink or collect bugs. And I'll be honest, I get the bulk of the fat off, but I do not get every single fat off. I use a lot of borax. I get a lot of the oils out. I'll soak it in Dawn for a while, and that'll help pull out the oils even more. But as the fat dries, it'll harden, and I've never had issues with it like that. I've done multiple ducks where I've just skinned them. I've left them out just to see what happens, and it'll dry, it'll harden, and almost to the point where it's like hard as a rock almost. So I do leave a paper towel in my mounts just to kind of help like all the air kind of get in and out, breathe a little bit better. But yeah, mine, as you'll see, probably aren't going to get super clean or as clean as some other people's. Right now we're at the leg attachment, so I'm just going to come in with my shears now. Hopefully y'all can see. So there's the leg up here, it goes to the knee, and then the knee almost like to the thigh, and this is the hip attachment. So I just come in here, and then you can just clip that, and that's where the leg attaches to. And then just keep shearing just to get the rest of the skin off. Pull that down and away. Find my other leg. My other leg was already busted, so it is already off. This time you also want to be mindful. You don't want to be ruffling the feathers up too much. You can kind of clean it out or clean them off when you wash them. We still want to be mindful of it. And you just come back in here, start just cutting away little by little once again. I got kind of a big bulk of meat right there, so I'm gonna try to start thinning that off a little bit. I think all of this is actually my leg piece. Oh no, my leg is still attached. So I'm gonna come back in, cut that. Alright, that leg is off now. That leg will come off. Come all the way down. Also, while you're doing this, you kind of want to keep an eye out for where all the BB holes are, or if there's any tears. Sometimes if they're retrieved by dogs, they can kind of poke some holes in them as well, so you always want to be mindful of that. That way you kind of have an idea of where you'll need to go in and stitch up later if need be. I don't think I've really came across any holes in this one. So maybe it just got winged and went down like that. I always want to be mindful too, if you ever do get a nicer trophy duck that you want to save, you always got to start prepping it basically in the field as soon as you get hands on it. So try not to ruffle it, try not to let your dog play with it. Try your best not to wring its neck, but you do need to kill it. That way it's not just kind of suffering there. I know a lot of people use a finisher. I always carry like a 18 gauge needle with a syringe, and I'll put it in the seam of the spine and the skull, and that'll just kind of dispatch them right away, almost like the finisher, but it's way smaller of a hole. And a lot of times you don't need to end up like sewing it up or anything like that. Alright, right now we should be getting to the wing attachment. So I'll pull the skin back a little bit more. Go down to the neck. We're almost there. All the skin around the wings and the scapula area is another super thin area, so always take your time. Be careful with it. There's a lot of fat around the neck, so you can usually kind of speed up around there, but still be careful. A lot of times a paper towel will come in handy, because with all the blood and everything that's thawing out, it'll start leaking out once you get to a certain point as well. And that can kind of hinder your ability to see. I know I'm probably hiding everything out of field of view, but I'm just cutting down here. Once you have the wings exposed, you can go in with your shears. A lot of people will cut the wing bone out. I'll see if I can. So there's kind of like the, I guess what would be like the humerus head. A lot of times for flying mounts, you want to keep the humerus intact if possible, and that's what's going to end up kind of plugging it in to your bird body. I'll show you here in a little bit, or maybe on the next video. So once you can get your your finger through the little wing socket. You want to feel for that humeral head and cut through the breast, almost right above it. And then a lot of times, see it's already separated right there. Now you can just use your shears, your scalpel, cut through there. You have your humeral head. That's your attachment point. So now, the only thing left is just the head and the neck. I feel like between the head and the neck, it's the piece that I still struggle with because I always want to take off a little bit more than what I should. So a lot of times I will even use like a headlamp, which I think I'm gonna go get real quick. So we'll do it once. Alright, so hopefully this isn't gonna blind y'all out too much. Yes, I know I've got borax toothpaste and everything else on this shirt. It's from stained up from other ducks. As you can kind of see the iridescence now. So I usually always start at the bottom. No, of course, Kitty wants to be up here now. So I know a lot of times you just want to start down here. I like to start down at the very end of the jaw, and that will give me something for me to hold on to later on with my tweezers when I do glue and make that attachment point. Try just to pull up on it, and then it'll be attached to like the bottom of the tongue down here. I'll cut that, and then that way I've got a little handle. That way I can pull up and away from all the jaw, the bone structures, and everything else. At first I would use my tweezers and actually grab onto the feathers while I was pulling so hard that I was pulling feathers out. And then once I got to the gluing part at the very end, basically the whole area, I guess the attachment point was completely bald, and I didn't realize how rough I was being with it. So, like I said, I'm still learning. So while the skin is soaking in that Dawn, I painted my bill. It looks okay, I guess. Not really the best at painting, but it'll make do. As you can see, it's Bufflehead head from Rocky Mountain Materials. This is a 18 gauge wire. And then this is some 5/8 size backer rod. I think I get it at Home Depot. And so I just kind of compare it up next to the real head. Give me one sec. Alright, so as you can see, that's kind of up next to the real head. The paint is not very close, so I'll kind of correct that a little bit later on. As you can see, you just kind of want to go around, so where the trachea kind of narrows down right there, I just kind of shaved off a little bit more, and then it's a little bit longer, just to be able to match up with that recessed hole in my body. And so we'll get the skin dried up and go from there. In total, I think there were 4 or 5 soaks with a super concentrated dish soap solution, and then in between another 3 or 4 rinses. So altogether, you're looking at over 20 rinses, because each time you soak it in the soap, you want to rinse all the soap out and then put new soap in, just to kind of help degrease everything. Now, my little partner here, this is the skin. I just kind of like, wrung it out, so it's almost kind of dry to the touch. I just have this super big old beach towel. You just kind of want to press down on it just to help get any residual water out. That way it'll significantly cut down on your dry time. I used to always use a hair dryer, and that took me about an hour. And now I was gifted a wonderful pet vacuum, and this thing has significantly helped a lot. And it is way quieter than the hair dryer, so that makes it definitely nice too. So I'll see if I can get the phone set up again, and then I'll get to drying, and we'll see kind of what it looks like.